going to say a call to order. We can start. We can start with roll call.
Wagner, present.
Seligren, present.
Burford, present.
Bowman here.
Lewis, present.
Villanueva, present.
Russell, present.
Willou Reynolds present.
Cool. We can start with public discussion of anything not on the agenda. Okey doke. Moving on to certificates of appropriateness, starting with 1025 Woodlawn Avenue.
Is it all shared and everything?
No.
Oh.
Hang on one second. We're going to try to set this Zoom up.
Oh, you're okay.
Wait, I'm sorry, Kate? Oh, it's just Woodlawn.
They can stop it going forward, but I don't think they're legally going to be allowed to
No,
it's
no,
already
but
done.
it's a symbolic. I just,
Okay.
who doesn't? It was never a big deal.
Okay. So 1025 Woodlawn Avenue is in the Woodlawn Historic District, and this project was deferred from the March meeting where we requested more accurate drawings of what the proposal was. I'll go through a little bit of the initial stuff just in case somebody wasn't here then. This is a Victorian house built in 1891, and it has some East Lake detailing. Notably, there's fish scales, there's decorative barge boards, there's spindle work in some of the gable ends. There's also a very decorative front porch. The overall form is a hipped roof with projecting gables on all four sides. This is a photo of the east side, which we did not have before, so we can see there the trim detail basically has this fish scale area between the floor levels as well as in the gable. And notice on this east side that does tend to be the more plain side, there's no spindle work in the gable. There is a small rear open porch, and then the subject of the project is partly the demolition of this canning shed that has been there at least 100 years. We don't know really when it was built. It's an unfinished space, and it's also in a deteriorated condition. Here is an image of most of the west side, and you can see here there's also spindle work in this gable. And this side has some one-story projections, this bay window and this area that, I don't know, it might be the pantry, but Karen can correct us if it's not. And on this side, since this is the only one-story area that's not a porch, you can see that there's a little bit of change in the detail with this frieze board and those vertical lines in it. Here is the rear-facing gable, and you can see this one actually doesn't have spindle work like the other two. Instead, that crest of the gable is built out and framed out further. I don't know what the name for that is. It's just a different kind of detail, and it might actually be a little less decorative because the wall then supports the trims, and yeah, it's just not as delicate that way. This entire canning shed is a different roof style, it's a different siding style, it's a different type of window, as well as being at least one step down from the main floor level, and it is also, as we said, unfinished and in a deteriorated condition. And so the project is to replace this with another addition. Here's the aerial view. You can see there's the main hipped roof with the projections on each side as well. And just one other view here. I will note, and maybe one of the things that we talked about last time, I don't know if you guys can see.
Yeah.
Oh, there. This, as we talked about, the gable-on-hip roof, and the purpose of these windows is basically to get light into the center of those big hip roof spaces. Oh, now I can't go forward that way. Here's a photo of the interior. And so here's one of our updated drawings. So this is showing the south view of the house. And because of the fact that the commission was open to the fact that while the addition would be set in from the corners on each side, the roof would project slightly beyond it. And it was determined that that might be acceptable because of the fact that we do have all of these other projections between this addition and the front of the house. So that won't be visible in any way. And then we have also included a window in the gable as the owner had wanted, and that's something that you guys can still discuss. I can't remember if you were generally for that or not, but it's still included in the project. You can see here that some of the detailing of the gables, like the fish scale detailing, is included, as well as I was talking about, that one-story detail of the vertical frieze board above the window. And this is the east side, and it shows basically a pair of doors with the same detailing that we were looking at before, and the west side with 2 individual windows. The proposal would also try to match the foundation with some kind of a stone cladding. Here's a plan view showing that the addition will be set in slightly from the rear corners of the house. And then the guidelines. So currently, there are several guidelines that staff finds that this addition does not meet. Basically, we do have things like trimming the door openings to match the other door openings. We do preserve original roof pitches and spans. We're not getting into those. And in fact, we are matching the kind of gable on the new addition. We are preserving those original walls and vertical corners by setting it in slightly. And we're adding windows that match the type and size and sash width and divided lights. However, one of the things is the fact that we're supposed to match the window patterning. And while we do have individual windows like we see on the rest of the house, because of some of the heights of the new addition, all of the windows are set lower than the windows on the existing house. We don't have any issues with the materials here. The owner will use materials that are approved by the guidelines. Another one of the guidelines is that matching the key horizontal lines. In this addition, we are mimicking them, but we are not matching them because it does not align with them currently. And then similarly, that also will mean that the door is going to be overall shorter than the other 2 doors that we see on the house. But they do propose to match the foundation. And part of the guidelines also talk about you're going to have roof eave conditions, like the overhang will match. And it talks also clearly about how, if they're all aligned horizontally, then there is a potential for some of them to intersect. Now, on this 2-story house, we don't have that situation, but we would still have them aligning with each other. So there are just basically some issues with the height of the addition exactly. And so the staff recommendation is basically to take everything from about windowsill height and move it up so that the windowsill aligns with the other windowsills. The window head aligns with the other window heads. That frieze board will be aligned, and then this whole gable will pull up a little bit further, but it still won't impact any of the additional trim details up above. It'll end before we get to this point up here. And that would be the same case here. Everything here would be moved up. The difference between these two window sills, that amount of space, so that everything aligns. On this side, it would probably make the most difference because of the fact that we do have doors. If we look at the doors on the house, this one is the one from that east side. And it's hard to see because it's a little dark, but it looks like that door has a transom above it. And then the front door, we can at least see that it aligns with the window heads. And that's very common in historic houses of this area for either the door itself or a transom above the door to align with the window heads on the house. When I was talking through this with the owner, she did present several of the neighboring properties that appeared to not follow these guidelines as well. I am going to provide those in case she wants to talk about them. However, with the exception of one, all of these additions were built during a historic time period. So obviously there was no guidelines. We can't speak to why they were done in the way that they were done or anything like that. One of them is the addition on the house across the street at 1036 Woodlawn. And basically what had ended up happening here is they made the addition wider than the house, which meant that the slope of the roof continues down further than the rest of the slope. And it does create an awkward condition where you have a window that's looking at the corner of a wall, which is something aesthetically that we would probably try to avoid if we could. We do have the house at 1011 Woodlawn. And with this house, what's interesting is the fact that the rear kitchen is, it is aligned with the rest of the first floor portion of the house. This portion of the house, which is probably a similar canning shed to the one on 1025, it actually had its foundation replaced since we've had a commission and been approving things. And so I would think that this might just be another case of that kind of anomaly of an unfinished kind of addition on the rear of the house. This one is 1033 Woodlawn, and this house did not include this entire wing of the building historically. Someone added a one-story addition to it at one point in time, and then when the commission was pretty new, before we had guidelines at all, the owners proposed to add the second floor addition. And there are several things that did not happen here. And the guidelines were created within a few years after this. And so who knows? It's possible that some of the guidelines exist because of things like this. But what we have here is an eave condition on this wing of the building and a completely different eave condition on this wing of the building. And where this one is kind of like an Italianate and a boxed and bracketed, this is just an open eave on this side, and it does extend down lower. Now, part of the goal with this was also to make this entire roof a little bit lower, but I'm suspecting that they probably made the addition wider than the main house, and that's why we ended up with an eave that's a little bit lower. So currently, the recommended motion is to approve the project. However, the roof, the eave, frieze board, and other elements like the window sills and heads and the door head are brought up to align with the historic house. The foundation material, what they want to propose to match the stone and the window and door product information, we haven't reviewed that, so it would also be recommended that that is submitted. And then, of course, that new door opening is revised. And if they do have a pair of doors that are salvaged that they want to use, the recommendation is to put a transom above them like a nearby door. And that's all I have. So if you have any questions or want to see any specific slides, let me know.
Gotcha. The next step is, do we have comment from the owner? Is that right?
Yeah, unless you have questions for me.
Oh, gotcha. If I'm remembering correctly, a lot of the thing we talked about last time was just the elevation, right? If it moves up, it aligns with the horizontal lines. That was our issue last time, if I'm remembering.
Also, if I remember, they were going to move it to be centered, which had the roof hangs over the addition, which normally we don't allow.
But that was the thing we wanted to
Was
see
it?
here, right?
Yes.
And it
Yeah.
seemed, I think it seemed that we were amenable to that as long as we saw what the plan looked like.
Yes,
Back one
like an
picture
accurate,
to the
updated.
back, that view.
Right, because it was
Pictures. We didn't
presented
have
one way
any.
and then it was shifted in the middle of that.
Yep,
So,
yep.
okay.
Yeah, that was, most of it is, maybe the drawings didn't quite show everything that we thought we knew about it, but then there were some things that were suggested as changes here at the meeting that were also not
Gotcha.
depicted that we couldn't envision.
Yep.
And the overhanging part, again, seemed that, if I'm remembering correctly, was something we were not necessarily opposed to, I think, right? But just wanted to see what that looked like. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
It wasn't just the horizontal lines, it was also the overhanging thing.
Yes.
I think that you guys were pretty open to the overhang.
Okay.
Just because it's really blocked from everything with the adjacent porch and stuff.
And so do the on the recommendation, those three bullet points, are those the same bullet points we saw before? I know like there was discussion of the door material and the door where it goes that I think the owner was amenable to doing kind of whatever, but it was the first bullet point that is the problem now?
I don't,
But-
I would assume that the recommended motion might just be different. I wrote a completely new staff report.
Gotcha.
Based
Okay.
on the new information.
Okay. Any other questions for Jessica or staff? Okay. Do we have any commentary from the owner?
And Karen, just please sign in.
I am among the majority of people who would rather be at the dentist than speaking public.
That's fair.
Let there be light. I said, let there be light. This is beautiful.
I think
I'm like obsessed with the.
that's what
And therefore, forgive me, but I'm going to have to read what I've prepared.
Yeah, all right.
I think you'd be challenged to find someone more interested in Iowa City history or the preservation of it than I am. I'm a fifth-generation Iowa Cityan. My great-great-grandfather was J.J. Fryoff, and I found the Fryoff name in almost every book that I've ever picked up regarding Iowa City history.
I'm sorry if I can interrupt you 1 second. Can you pull the microphone down? I'm having a little bit of, thank you.
He wasn't Chauncey Swan or Captain Irish, but he was a presence in Iowa City. The picture of his harness shop that he had on the single-digit block of South Dubuque Street is on page 139 of Mary Beth Schloniger's Finials, A View of Downtown Iowa City. He and his son Frank built 1025 North Summit, and I'd always hoped to someday purchase it and bring it back into the family, but the timing was never right. And when the opportunity to purchase 1025 Woodlawn became available, I was grateful for all of that bad timing. I was absolutely thrilled at the prospect of living on Woodlawn Avenue. And in February of 2023, it became apparent to me that 1025 Woodlawn needed me as much as I needed it after 9 years of dealing with declining health in my parents and their subsequent deaths. 1025 was suffering from years of deferred maintenance and make-do repairs. I replaced the crumbling chimney with historically appropriate materials. I replaced the west wall of the porch that had been there'd been a chimney fire, I believe, and that west wall had been repaired with the same bricks that were used to build Southeast Junior High. And now it's Hardy board. It's James Hardy. Smooth siding. The house has been rewired, attic to basement, to spare it the fate of 1011 Woodlawn, which I am so grateful to be seeing restored. All of the original windows have been completely restored. My contractor, Mark Ziniel, even reminded me that he had to dismantle one of the old storm windows to get the boiler glass out of it so that all of the windows would be boiler glass. We have reused all of the original hardware throughout the house, right down to screws. And while the interior has come along beautifully, we are currently working on the exterior repair and repaint. So that brings me to the canning shed that was added sometime before 1920 at the south end of the house. You've been familiarized with its many structural and design defects. Mark can even attest that I have spent months figuring and reconfiguring the addition to provide the spaces that I needed for a downstairs bathroom, a 3/4 bath, a laundry area, and a mudroom. Both interior and exterior, where windows go, how big they are, et cetera, et cetera. And part of that was wanting to use as much salvaged material from the original house as I could. Window and door casing, hardware, et cetera. Raising the height of the addition to comply with the horizontal lines on the exterior creates a cascade of changes on the interior that make it unable for me to use those materials. The water table, the drip cap, and the horizontal siding would comply with that horizontal requirement, but the window, door, and eave height would not. If an exception to the guideline would enable me to preserve the interior and exterior design, which I find is respectful of the original architecture, tasteful, complementary to both the aesthetics and the spirit of Woodlawn, that I would implore you to make such an exception.
Thank you. I want to say commission discussion, or
Yeah.
do we have questions for you? I think is the next step, yeah.
Burford, the ground itself behind that side of the house, is it level or is it sloped down?
It falls away from the south side.
I guess my question, again, is just, I think I'm just a clarifying question of one of the reasons for the exception of this is to raise it up would then not allow you to use certain salvageable materials and would make you have to change a lot of what's going on inside of it. Is that correct? Awesome, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Cool. Do we have, I want to say now, a motion?
Seligren moves to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 1025 Woodland Avenue as presented in the staff report with the following conditions. The roof, eave, frieze board, and other elements are brought up to align with the historic house. Foundation, window, and door product information is submitted for approval, and the new door opening is revised to match the height of existing doors.
Villanueva, second.
Commission discussion?
So this motion is saying that she would have to bring up the height, but then you're saying the salvage exterior materials could not be used.
What do we do with this one?
So if you wanted
also,
to
I-
approve, wait just a second, if you wanted to approve leaving it lower, you will need to find an exception to the guidelines and a reason for that exception, and then we'll add that you'll need to either revise the motion or make a new motion, one of the two.
I mean, could a reason be to save that, salvage the materials? Could a reason be to say, yes, it can stay lower because you're salvaging exterior materials?
I
Yeah, it
don't
wouldn't
see why
be
not.
exterior because they're not matching, the exterior materials are not matching.
Yeah, it would be interior materials that I'd be salvaging.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
But I also just wanted to say, for over 100 years, the height of this addition has been the history of 1025 Woodlawn. You know, the guideline is a superimposed requirement over the actual history of this house.
The new, what you would build to replace what you're getting rid of is the same height as it
Yes.
was before? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the floor changes because the current building is at least a step down.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
And that's, the addition that she's proposing is at the same height.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess for me, there's a spirit of wanting to preserve certain things, right? I mean, it's looking at preserving what was already there, using materials that we like. Again, that's an interior. I'm not commenting on what that is, but it is nice to see people using materials that were salvaged. I tend to like that. I don't know that some of the issues we have with the level or whatever, it's on, like, there's already bump outs on the entire house, so it's, you can't really see anything anyway. It's coming in from where we would normally have things anyway, which matches what we normally do. That's good. I think moving it up, again, we've talked about this, I think, last time, which moving it up also seems to affect some of the historic detailing of the house, which we don't necessarily want to go. Is that, I think last time we talked about that was,
The
yeah.
fa-
Right, but then
fishtail.
Jessica said that the new design wouldn't go that high anymore.
Yeah,
It wouldn't interfere with that that upper fish scale.
But this is, yeah, okay.
It would, and before it would.
Right.
This time it won't.
This time it won't.
But I would go from only 5 boards of horizontal siding to between 2 and 3. And I think it would look crowded. It would look out of proportion.
Because right now, like with this drawing too, the fish scale, that scaling
It's matching that.
is matching what's on the house. It's in, like when you stand back and look at it, it's straight across.
You mean the, like, not the higher one, but the lower one?
This, the lower one.
Yeah, the one
matches,
behind
yeah.
the addition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we only talking about the height of the windows? Is that,
I think the
It's
height
the
of
height of
all of
everything.
the.
All of it.
All of like these
Okay.
lines here matching, and I think because it's lower, the windows and the lines of Vista match.
It's about, yeah, bringing the windowsill up, the window head up, this frieze board up,
but still the same height?
to match the other first floor parts, or not.
I'd like to have a little bit more information about why the salvage materials on the interior it wouldn't be possible to use them if this design was
They'd
moved
be
up.
too short.
They would just be-
And they're original to the house, not just salvage materials. They're original to 1025.
Are they from the can shed?
I eliminated 3 doors. You know how these old Victorians, you had to have 2 egresses from each room? And I had one little corner in the entryway, the entry, the dining room, and I think the previous owners called it their TV room. There were 3 doors all in one corner. And I eliminated those 3 doors, and I have the material to work with.
Could that be a situation where a transom window was added?
Then I still wouldn't have enough material to do a transom.
But an exception an interior section can't, or information can't be used in an exception for the outside, or can it?
I mean, that's up to you guys. We don't review interiors, so normally we
Right.
don't talk about them.
And the addition, like you said, that current addition has, with the lower windows, with the difference in the height, has been on the house for about 100 years.
Yeah,
Right.
over 100.
Over
If-
100
If they're
years.
on the 1920 Sanborn fire maps, this is that is
That
the
is what it
history
is.
of the house.
Could that be the exception?
I,
I think as a committee, we can say that, yeah,
Right.
as a commission.
yeah, you're
That is a precedent.
You're
that
not-
has
arguably
been there for 100
upgrading
years.
to what you
Yeah.
have, but not, yeah. You're not bringing things to be modern, I guess. You're looking at what it was before and not going
You're
against what
basically
it,
replacing a better addition with the exact same thing.
right, you're making
it's just
something
gonna
better
look
quality
like-
as opposed to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Burford, and it is on the rear of the house when this.
Yeah, no one can
if
see
the
it.
land is indeed sloping, I don't find that, I find, first of all, these additional drawings are quite helpful, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
But I would, if the ground slopes away from the house, then I wouldn't have no objection to that current
Same.
rendering. So I would be in favor of an exemption.
I would also be in favor of an exception.
Same.
probably same.
I just don't know how to word it.
I think we can go back to the motion and just take
Yeah.
that part out, can't we?
Do we need to take out the first bullet point and the third bullet point? I think we'd have to take out both, right?
Yeah, I do think you'd have to do that, and then you'd need to state the exception.
The reasoning
And so
why.
we could either have Jordan revise her motion if she is amenable to that, or you guys could make a new and different motion.
Seligren moves to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 1025 Woodlawn Avenue, as presented in the staff report with the following conditions. The foundation window, yes, and door product information is submitted for approval. And
It's approved through an exception.
the project is approved through an exception, which is that the original height of the exterior of the can shed will match approximate,
Or is being preserved?
or is being preserved.
Sanborn.
Through an exception to allow the design as drawn to reflect the historic structure.
Fantastic. To allow the design as drawn to reflect the historic structure and height of the structure.
You know, wait a second. Sorry. Did someone write that down?
Our minute taker will do
got
that
it.
for us.
Okay, perfect.
Do we go through another thing of,
All in-
is there any commission discussion about this?
No, I want to say, it's the second to last meeting for me. I really appreciate your commitment to history in Iowa City. I think it's really inspiring, and I know you've come back after we've deferred the first time, and that was probably very frustrating, but the drawings were exceptional in comparison, and they really helped us see it, and were very convincing, and I'm completely fine with it. I don't have any problem with it whatsoever.
Cool. Okay, let's put it to, sorry?
Yeah,
Okay.
vote.
I was like, wow. Let's put it to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Awesome, thank you. Moving on, we have 203 North Lynn Street.
Thank you. Ann Russett, Neighborhood and Development Services. I'm sure the commission remembers this item from the last meeting, which was deferred. Let's see, this is a local historic landmark. Here's a photograph of the eastern elevation. It's a 3-story, mid-19th century Greek Revival building that was built circa 1862 with an addition that more than doubled the size of the building in 1893. It's also listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And here's just the southern facade as well. So the proposal is to add a secondary entrance to that North Lynn Street facade. And at your April 10th meeting, again, the commission deferred this item, and the commission generally provided some guidance at that meeting to the applicant. The commission supported the entrance on North Lynn Street, but you requested that the entrance look like a storefront. The commission also preferred the entrance to look like the main entrance of the corner of the building, and you preferred a step configuration like the corner entrance. So I have also provided here a photograph of the existing corner entrance, so you can see what that looks like if we need to refer back to that. The applicant has updated the plans. These are the revised plans, and they incorporate both the direction from the commission and some recommendations from the staff. So the revised plans show that the entrance is in the southern portion of the north half of the building, and this reflects the rhythm of the opening in the facade. The revised plans also show the entrance designed to look like a storefront. And some more specific changes that have been made to match the existing corner of the storefront include that the transom has been removed and from the exterior wall at the new open vestibule. They matched the corner entrance details, such as the trim under the limestone. If you can see that here. And here there's also trim at the corner entrance. They match the corner entrance door and surround with side lights and a 3-part transom. So here are the side lights and the 3-part transom, which looks, oops, wrong way. Which you can see here, the 3-part transom and the side lights. And lastly, the storefront is sized so that it is framed by the existing brick opening, so it is fully visible when viewed straight on from the street. They also incorporated the concrete steps that the commission had requested. And here's just a rendering showing the revised plans. If you remember, the guidelines that we used for this review were from the Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. And I'll show, we can discuss any of these if you'd like. There were a couple new guidelines, though, that we looked at as part of this review. One was doors, and the guideline is adding new door openings that are trimmed to match other doors and windows in the building. And that's, the revised plans show that this new door is trimmed to match that corner entrance door. Also, we looked at porches. And although this guideline is written for residential buildings, it could be considered a basis for reviewing steps at the entrance into any type of historic building, and the guideline is that brick or concrete steps are used for masonry, for a masonry porch, and this is a masonry building, so concrete steps would be appropriate in this case. So staff is recommending approval of this project with the revised changes. We do have one clarification that we would like regarding a synthetic trim material that was shown on the plans. And if the applicant is considering or proposing synthetic material, it does need to be reviewed by the commission if it's anything other than wood. So if the applicant could speak to that, we could discuss that tonight as well. And that concludes my presentation.
Thanks. Do we have any questions for staff? Okey doke. Does the owner have any commentary? If you could sign in before speaking.
Peter Byler and, sorry. Yeah, I don't really have much to say. I hope you like it. I even mocked up the stairs out of plywood and had my wife hold them up, and they'll hit just where the other stairs hit the sidewalk, just about 9 inches from the walking space. And the limestone lintel that goes around the whole building will be the top step, so that'll be preserved. And interestingly, as we've been getting into the building, you know, there used to be this staircase in the exact location that the new staircase will be going upstairs, and we just started getting into that today. But I think this is hopefully, you know, I'd be happy to answer any questions. The synthetic material, I wish we would have removed that note. So the other door is trimmed with tin. painted tin. So the only material that won't be wood in this surround is the ceiling, which we could either make out of tin and paint to match the existing one, or, probably a more practical application would be like a cement board or even just an exterior grade plywood painted. But there's not going to be any kind of weird plastics or anything. The doors will be wood. The surround will be built out of wood, just like the original one. I have a great trim carpenter ready to tackle this project, and he's excited about building this kind of stuff. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I actually have a question. Is that tin patterned at all, or is it just plain?
It's flat, yeah, it's just like a piece of, like what you would call trim coil today. At some point, that's what they put up there, yeah.
Is that visible in the picture at all?
Let's see.
Or can we see kind of where it's located? I'm curious.
Yeah,
Like this.
this is tin, it's actually it's right, every time. On the left side, where that black firebox is, on the left side of the opening, which is parallel to where we're looking, so you can't really see it, right there, that whole wall is tin. And then it wraps around the ceiling. But the wood, everything, the door and all the side lights is wood, and the new ones will be as well.
But it's all of that, right? Not any of this.
Can we see the picture of what the new,
I'm curious,
no, that,
it's just my own curiosity. It has nothing to do with what we do here, but this is a permanent change, so there's no going back to the full space on the first floor.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just curious. I don't.
But so if you ever went back in the future, you would end up with like a U-shaped,
Right.
because the staircase that I need for egress takes like probably 60 or 70% of the depth. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any other questions for the owner?
Brian, did you have something?
no, I just wanted to see this picture so I could see how far back it was sat in comparison to the corner, or if it was flush with the front of the building, so.
The plan might show that.
Yeah, that's just the minimum amount
Yeah,
that
that's fine.
that you have to swing the door out, and you still have to
Yeah,
have somewhere to step.
Gotcha.
the architecture picture is just flat, so I couldn't tell.
Yeah. The plan will show you a little bit how it's reset.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Have any motions? If someone wants to do that?
I'll do it. Sellergren moves to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed new storefront entrance as presented in the application, subject to clarification of the proposed synthetic trim material.
Do we
Wagner seconds.
Thank you. Do we need that in a motion if we got clarification here, or do we just wait? Yeah, I don't understand.
I don't think it matters.
Does it, okay. Commission discussion?
I like the door. I'm excited about the door. I think it's a good project. I think this is what historic preservation can do, is make spaces more useful and more accessible to the community. So.
Okay.
Burford appreciates the care that has been taken in designing the new portal to match, or to match in symmetry to the current corner one.
I'd like to fill in Frank as well, because this is also taking rooming, it's a rooming house currently, so it's single rooms that share bathroom and kitchen on both floors. And
There's no kitchen. No kitchen.
and so then all of this is going to be changed to 7 studio apartments that have their own private bathrooms and kitchens on each floor. And that's one of the reasons that this door is necessary, so that there's those required entrances.
Oh, boy. I've reflected on this one so much and looked at the minutes from our last meeting, looked at this agenda. And I guess I'm not fully convinced that the changes are agreeing with the Secretary of Interior standards. Particularly, I've got it noted as number 9. I don't know about this compared to what I saw up there, but just that says exterior alterations will not destroy features and spatial relationships that characterize the property. And I guess in my mind, I just keep thinking about how this became a landmark because it's a rare, and I'm quoting here, a rare surviving commercial property that was characterized by size and large scale. And this door is kind of breaking things up for me, so I'm not seeing that expanse. So that's a concern for me. And also, I do think just from, the project we saw first in this meeting, there was an exception there and it was clearly stated. And I know we had a lot of discussion about why it's important to have this door, but it's not built into our motion and that bothers me too. But I do want to say overall, Peter, I really respect and I recognize the effort. But for me personally, in thinking of it from a historic preservation perspective, I just don't agree with the approach. So that's my stance.
Were you going to say something? Oh, you moved. I don't know. Yeah, I think it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's basically just going exactly where that window is, right? The brick around it is remaining the same. It's just taking out a window that, to me, doesn't look historic, doesn't seem to be a historic window.
It's from mid-20th century, that the windows that exist now with their own little sill and the little brick that's below them.
The historic.
So now they're historic, but they weren't. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem, I do tend to agree with Jordan on this one with it allows you to have more use for it. It doesn't, to me, look, I know that it may be, but it doesn't look super historic or that they match what's going on there to me. And if you're taking out a window and putting a door, but it matches everything else, I tend to agree that this is what we can do, is repurpose, but not destroy completely, right, old buildings. Yes, we need to change it a little bit, but not completely tear it down to make something new, which is appreciated by me. Any other commentary? We ready to vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No bread for me.
Okey-doke. Thank you. Moving on to 834 North Johnson Street.
You might see me and be like, go out the door that you came in.
You go in the first door.
There's a back.
Wear a disguise.
Hello, Commission. My name is Rachel Schaefer. I'm an associate planner with the Planning Department. I'll be presenting on 834 North Johnson Street. This property is a key contributing property in the Brown Street Historic District. It is a Greek Revival house known as Prospect Hill and the Downing Pickering Glasgow house. It is depicted as a lithograph in the 1854 Mylar map, but may have been built as early as the 1840s. The house form is a side gable single-story house with a 3/4 width porch. The house has a stone foundation and woodlap siding and flat casing and some classical details. You can see that here in the existing southern elevation. Here's a photo of the existing eastern elevation. And here's a western elevation that now functions as an entrance to the home. Here is an aerial of the property. The applicant is proposing to enclose a rear covered porch to function as an addition for a bathroom, laundry, and mudroom. Here is that north elevation. You can see the arrow pointing to the proposed covered porch area that they're proposing to enclose for that addition. The existing concrete slab will be removed and the porch area will become an interior space. A new foundation that will not be visible will be poured and a new back door and siding will be added. The trim around the porch will remain. Let's see, this trim here is proposed to remain, and a new wall will be added that will be flush with the north wall. which you'll be able to see a little closer in the coming slides. So here's the existing floor plan. You can see that covered porch area here with those exterior walls being proposed for demolition. And here's what it will look like with the proposed addition. You can see those new walls here that are flush with the northern existing wall. Here's a sketch of the existing north elevation. You can see the porch area here. And this is the proposed north elevation. The elevation shows the new door opening that will be trimmed to match the door to the east here. You can see that trim matching there. And a new half-light fiberglass door in addition to a half-light wood storm door is being proposed. Door product information was submitted and meets historic guidelines. The drawing also includes a note that the primed wood lap siding will be added, and trim board will be painted to match the existing wood lap siding and trim. So just to quickly go over some of the door guidelines that are recommended. So it is recommended to install wood screen doors with glass or screen sashes, add new opening trim to match existing doors and windows, substitute materials only if durable, paintable, and HBC approved. And in our review, staff found that the proposal meets all of these recommendations. As far as recommendations and guidelines for additions or expanding the building footprint, it recommends to design additions to preserve the historic character, match doors, paint, and siding to historic materials and appearance, use materials similar to the historic trim and details, and to not enclose historic front and side porches or use unimproved synthetic siding. Again, staff found that the proposal meets all of these recommended guidelines. So therefore, staff recommends approval of the certificate of appropriateness for the project at 834 North Johnson Street as presented in the application. Any questions?
I guess I'm just curious, is this project on an addition to this house, or is this part?
I can clarify that for you a little bit. The main side gabled front portion was built, very early. The rear addition, which is a rear-facing gable with a open portico on each side, was built before 1933.
Okay.
And then at some point in time, the east side was enclosed with screens. And then in the 60s, the west side was actually ranchified. And so it was made to look like a ranch house. The commission in 2006 approved removing all the ranch details from that west side. And part of what they wanted to do is retain the columns that were still there so that kind of reflected that open portico. So in the drawing, and actually that photograph, you see that there's a frieze board that remains, and that is to reflect the fact that that was historically an open portico all along that west side.
Okay.
But it's been incorporated into the house since the 60s.
This is, I don't even know how to ask this question. What's the front of the house?
It's that like column thing, right?
I think this is
This is the
technically
front of the house.
but I don't think they use it as the front entrance.
So
They
those
mentioned-
two-
Yeah,
the-
this is sort of functions as the front, but
that
this
piece of
is
the
the
street.
front. Yeah.
But that's, the functioning front is because that's where the cars.
Yeah, yeah.
Does everyone know where this house
And
is?
it's because
I
of
don't
the
think it's
incredible.
60s
I don't think I've seen this
change.
house.
So when I'm,
Property's amazing.
okay.
Yeah.
So, hang on, I'm
So
sorry.
yeah, these are the column entrance.
Okay.
And then this is sort of what functions as the front since the driveway's
So
there.
this is like the rear of the house,
Yes,
even though it's
technically.
the side you would see from the street? Is that correct? Or this, like Johnson Street, right?
So historically, the house, the front of
Oh,
this
I'm
house was
confused.
on Brown Street. And so there was a stone path and retaining
okay.
walls that walked all the way down the hill to Brown Street, historically. But that has been not that case for more than 100 years because the other houses in front of it have existed that long.
Okay.
The
So-
steps, those brick steps are still there for the other house.
Yeah, there
but
are some
yes.
of the remnants
So
still there.
I'm just seeing, I'm not seeing
Yeah.
Brown Street because it's not in this picture, but this is the front, those are the back.
Yeah,
Okay,
Brown
gotcha. I was
Street
like,
is
what am I
further
looking at?
down
Yeah.
here, beyond neighbors' yards, so further down.
Okay.
I guess it's set far back from Brown Street, so you don't really see this house, because this is a dead end, right?
Yeah.
Johnson Street, okay.
And so then if we can go back to the picture that would show what they're doing, it would basically make it symmetrical,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? That we're just making everything look like the other side of the house, just closing it in.
much.
Okay.
There's
And
a
you
little bit
won't
of
even
wall there, just because there's a washer dryer
Yeah.
right there.
And we wouldn't even see it because it's
It's
on the back
on the
of the
back.
house, yeah.
Gotcha, okay. What's next?
So-
Okay.
Can I make a motion? Okay.
Yeah.
Walou Reynolds is recommending a motion that staff recommends approval, a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 834 North Johnson Street as presented in the application.
Vina Nueva seconds.
Commission discussion?
Can we get a tour of this house?
It's such a wild, wild house.
Yeah, I'm so
And it's kind of
very interested in it.
I'd worked on that house in 1978 when I was in 8th grade.
What did it look like then?
It's looked like
Pretty
that.
similar.
Yeah.
Some exterior repairs.
I can say that I appreciate that we're leaving the trim details, so it's
Yeah.
very clear. I mean, isn't this kind of how we would close off a section of a historic home that traditionally they would maybe leave the trim and close it off?
The goal is always to try to make it so you could remove what you did and go back to what was there, if at all possible.
I like the symmetry of it. I feel like it matches then the front, the traditional front of the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do we want to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okey doke. Moving on to 1229 Burlington Street. Makes me dizzy.
I should just walk up sometime. It's really
You can't drive up there.
No,
But I'll.
Good evening, everyone. I am Parker Walsh, Associate Planner for the city, and tonight I'll be going over the porch construction application for 1229 Burlington Street. Shown here is our map of the district. This is a contributing property within the College Hill Conservation District. Here's an image of the front of the house from the north facade. Shown here, this is the existing deck. It is considered a deck because there is no roof over it. Staff would not support the construction of a new modern deck. However, we would support the construction of a porch, and so they will have to add a roof that matches the existing roof. Due to so many changes occurring over time to this property, such as synthetic sizing, the resizing and replacement of windows, staff does not, as well as the removal of a window in the dormer, which is just cut off here. Staff would recommend a more simplified front porch instead of matching the historic character here. Shown here is an example actually taken from San Antonio, Texas, just kind of showing you some of those traditional designs with turn spindles, decorative frieze board, and then some column details. With this approach, staff would recommend, again, a more simplified porch and not matching a one-for-one historical accuracy. Shown here are the drawings. Starting down with the piers, they will be stone and wrapped in stone to match the existing foundation. They will also be aligned with the porch columns. There will be white lattice skirting within, from pier to pier around all three sides. And the new stair construction and the railings will match or align with our guidelines. However, they are proposing squared spindles. The traditional approach would be that the turn spindle design. And we're also just asking for a standard frieze board and column design, but they will use cedar wood and wrap the spindles to appear as a true 6x6 column. Here's just some more details going into that, showing you more clearly where the lattice will apply along all three sides. They will have the stone pier approach. Looking at the guidelines, I did mention that the balustrades and handrail guidelines are being met. They do also allow the square spindles if they're 1.5 inches in diameter or greater. That is what we have here. They just won't be the exact turned historical character style. As far as the rest of these guidelines, they are met. I can go through them if you have any more questions about that. And then for the foundation, constructing an additional foundation that appears similar to the historic foundation in color, texture, unit size, and joint profile. That is what we will have here. All the porch piers will match the existing foundation. Looking at the mass and roof line, as I said, a roof does need to be added to be considered a porch and align more historically with a front porch in this housing style. It will be a hipped roof that aligns with the existing roof. And for porches, it recommends constructing new porches that are consistent with the historic building or similar to porches of the same architectural style. So we are asking for an exception for a more simplified porch approach instead of meeting that exact style. Constructing new porches that are more than 18 inches above grade using traditional porch construction with wood joints and wood flooring. Adding skirting to fill the space between the porch floor and grade if the space is more than 18 inches. Using vertical grained fir porch flooring for resistance to weathering. Leaving exposed the support piers below the porch columns. Skirting must be added to fill the space below the porch floor and grade if the space is more than 18 inches. Constructing porch skirting using 3 by 6 inch wood frame with slats. And all of these guidelines that are recommended have been met, again, with the exception of that architectural style.
Is the flooring going to be fir? Yes. Okay.
What would be disallowed is using unpainted treated wood for elements that would have been painted in the historic applications, and they are proposing to paint the wood elements white to blend with the existing house. Section 5.1, expansion of building footprint, recommends the following guidelines for new balustrades and handrails, which we went over, and those will be met. And matching key horizontal lines in the existing buildings, such as water table, eave height, window height, band boards, in order to provide continuity between the addition and the historic structure. Preserving a significant historic materials and features of the original structure, such as decorative windows, brackets, porches, and trim, and designing an addition so that it does not diminish the character of the historic structure. As I've gone over, this is a deck. It is not a historic structure that has been with the house. They're actually proposing to be more in line with what would historically be there in a porch, and we are asking for that exception since there's been so many alterations regarding the windows, the brackets, and the trim, so it wouldn't be, as shared here tonight, an exact replica of a historic porch. And just goes over the exceptions that I laid out for additions to foundations, concrete or textured concrete block may be used. For additions to foundations, it is acceptable to match the color, and pre-treated porch decking or dimensional lumber may be used, and they are proposing to match the foundation, and these exceptions will be met. Demolition of a whole structure or significant features. There are no historically significant features here, as this is a deck that we would not approve today, and we're proposing, or the applicant's proposing, to become more in line with what would historically be there. Staff recommends approval of a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 1229 East Burlington Street through an exception to the guidelines to allow a more simplified porch design because the existing modifications to the property. And now turn it over to the commission.
Do we have any questions for staff?
What year was this house built?
I'm not even on that one. Between 1895 and 1905. It's a Victorian cube cottage.
Ooh.
And that is, we don't have a lot of them in town. There might be a couple examples, but I can't recall them right now. And so in the reference book that we often use to look at architectural styles, one of the examples was this cube cottage that happens to be a National Historic Landmark, so I knew I would be able to find it. And so we were able to get Google screenshots. And part of that actually was to look at how the porch roof fit with the existing roof, because it's not connected. The porch roof sits right under the eave of the main roof. And with what we see here on this house, the new roof will have to do the same thing. In order to get enough slope between the window heads and the current eave, that new roof will sit right in there. The drawing's not necessarily, let's say, accurate as far as the height or even the slope on the roof, but it depicts enough details.
Sellergren, can you explain to me what that bump out on the front dormer is?
We don't know. Maybe it's for some mechanical thing. There would have been a window there. All historic dormers have a window, and they removed the window and built that little bump. So
And is the dormer covered with synthetic siding?
the whole house has.
The whole house is, okay.
Yeah. So we are missing, the only possible, we have, I can't make that work. We have a freeze board, we have some corner boards. We have a little bit of a historic window head, but I mean, the windows aren't even the same proportion that they would have been.
Yeah.
So it's been heavily modified.
And the exception to say that the porch doesn't need to be as detailed is basically to say that if
We don't need to do a gingerbread porch like this.
Right, to say that, but like, I guess why not? Like, are we just saying because
It would look
it would look weird, right? It would be like you're doing too much detail for a house that doesn't even match that anymore? Is
Yeah.
that the idea, or what?
And I think also, frankly, for the affordability of getting a porch back on this house as opposed to a deck.
So the exception being more like, maybe the detailing as well doesn't match, but also we want them to be more in line with our guidelines, therefore let's get closer to that.
Yeah, and the simple details will probably match better with the house, since it also is lacking some of its more, Victorian details. So the simplified porch might just blend better with the architecture as it is.
Okay.
I'm curious, you talked about the columns being wrapped. I guess I'm not clear on what that means exactly.
So we allow them to use basically a 4x4 post, which is 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And then we have them wrap it with cedar on all four sides so that it's actually 6 inches by 6 inches, not 5.5 like a 6x6 post, but also so it has a finished material on the outside instead of just treated wood.
Got it. Thank you.
We do also have them put a simple capital and base on the columns. It might just be a border.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
Burford moves to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 1229 East Burlington Street through an exception to the guidelines to allow a more simplified porch design because of existing modifications to the property.
Thoman seconds.
We have commission discussion. Okay,
A porch sounds like a good idea over a deck to me.
I agree.
I also think it might help with some of the fun decorations that they do to hide them a little bit more.
Oh, it's a cheery house. I
It
guess
makes you smile when you see the lights at night at the different seasons, but it also is like
you know this
a lot.
house,
Yeah,
Ryan.
it's down the street from mine on the other side, but yeah,
That stands out.
yeah.
And I guess maybe my hope would be this is kind of a first step, and maybe they decide they want to do other projects on the house, and maybe someday the synthetic siding goes and there's more decoration that comes out. So I think this is a great move.
Okay. We can move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okey-doke. Let's move on to report on certificates issued by chair and staff, starting with certificates of no material effect and 717 East Davenport Street, which is my house.
Wait, your house?
Yeah.
This is Andy's house, and he had, we took critter holes out of the certificate of appropriateness, but he had critter holes. And so
And a raccoon.
Yeah, full raccoons.
Full
Yeah.
raccoons.
there's some holes that'll be
Real fun.
repaired.
And bats.
630 Fairchild Street. I've actually been working with them for a few years on this. The internal gutters have failed. The roof has failed. The roof is pulling away from the house because there's no footing under the columns. And a contractor who gives incredibly thorough proposals has proposed and detailed out exactly what he's going to do step by step. And so it is approved. The spindled architrave and the columns will be retained and reused. The roof construction will be mostly rebuilt, and all of the floor construction will be rebuilt. He has proposed to use a treated tongue and groove floor that he's going to encapsulate in primer and paint on all 6 sides instead of Douglas fir because of the proximity to grade. And we have approved that condition because for minor review, we have a handrail that'll be added to the rear steps at this little bungalow in the Longfellow Historic District. Rear steps behind the house. We have this other house in the Longfellow neighborhood at 502 Grant Street that will get a new roof on its garage. This non-historic house in the Goosetown Horace Mann Conservation District has a rear deck, and it is going to be replaced. This is totally not historic, and because of the way the construction works out, normally we would like decks to be at the level of the threshold on the door. This one will be a step down. The front door is actually also a step down or up from its landing, and that's a modern thing that we don't see in historic houses, but it actually fits here. Intermediate review, the dental office has sold, and there will be a new sign. It'll be basically an aluminum sign on wood posts, and it sits kind of nestled in this shrub or somewhere in front of in this area.
That's my neighbor that bought the dental office.
Awesome. Consideration of minutes for April 10th, 2025. We have a move to approve them.
Thoman moves to approve the minutes for the April 10th, 2025 meeting.
Wagner seconds.
Do we have any corrections?
no.
Or- I think that would have already been a thing we did, so. Okay, all those in favor to approve?
Aye.
All opposed? Cool. And commission discussion, we have contractor lists.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point out that Friends of Historic Preservation decided to come up with 5 grants that they have used to give local contractors to send them to Bob Yap's window repair and rehab classes in Hannibal, Missouri.
Awesome.
2 contractors have completed that so far and have come back, and so we've added them to our window rehab list. Also, interestingly, it just came up within the last few days. We were working on a project with a house that had a repairable metal roof, and we knew of a painter who we thought painted them, and they no longer do. And so we scrambled, and we ended up finding 3 new contractors who can repair metal roofs and recoat them. And so we've been able to add that to our list. At least one of them also can repair internal gutters, which is another good thing that we need to find. And I would assume that it's possible the others might be able to as well. But so we're always adding and removing people who are no longer practitioners in the area too.
And absolutely for personal reasons, where are these lists?
I have those lists.
Okay.
We don't publish them because we don't want to inundate contractors.
Okay.
And Frankly, maybe we protect our historic preservation contractors a little bit, and we don't want people using them on modern things. So we give them out willingly to anyone who asks for them. And so we have like a painter list, a mason list, the roof, the gutters, the windows, stucco, a variety of things. So if you or your friends ever need a contractor, let us know. And if there's something you need that we don't have, we will totally try to help find somebody.
And a person would come in person and get the
I can email it
hard
to you.
copy? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll email the list. We just don't want to put it on the city website.
Got it.
Gotcha.
So anybody can have that. And of course, you don't have to use the contractors on the list. They're just a starting. I did have one other thing, just because Christina reminded me of it. So I haven't looked at whose terms, but we do know that Christina with the Brown Street District and Jordan at large both will no longer be with the commission after the June meeting. Their terms will be up, and neither of them are going to apply. Is yours up too?
Mine's up, but I do plan to apply. Am I
Great.
late?
No.
Okay. I was like,
if-
I was really worried today. I panicked and I go, did I miss the application deadline?
We can figure out how to make sure that you apply in time. I might not know when it's time to apply, but there's probably a call that's out, or you might just be able to apply right now and have it on file.
All of the things are on the website. I looked today.
Okay.
I couldn't find a deadline though. I was
No,
like looking for like a deadline when the application.
So then I would just do it ASAP.
Yep, will do.
But that does bring up, as Jordan mentioned last time, it is a little bit easier to get at-large applicants, and I'm sure that they actually have some on file. I don't know about Brown Street. And so Christina's going to, get the word out, but everybody else too, they just need to live within the boundary of the Brown Street Historic District. It could be a renter. It doesn't have to be an owner. It could be my daughter. She lives there. No, it could not.
I will come to those meetings.
Yeah. She's not going to live there after August 1st, so it wouldn't work. But anyway, so keep that in mind too. We need to find a couple new commissioners.
And just a reminder, I will be gone in June, so your last meeting, you will also be
I'm going to act as chair, and it's
yeah.
going to be really fun.
going to be amazing and
You're gonna
great.
miss out.
Yeah.
Will you bring treats?
Treats, yeah, drinks.
Do we pick a new chair at that meeting then, or do we not? We wait until July's meeting to do, right?
Since you have a chair who's going through, you can wait and do the new election after you get new people.
Okay. All right, just-
Especially
I just
because
didn't
your
know.
vice chair will no longer be here, so you can't just, reelect her. So yeah, if it works for everybody, we could just wait and do that vote for everybody in July.
Nikki's trying to oust me, so that's good.
Important
Oh, I'm
position.
kidding. It doesn't matter. I'm joking.
And also, I was saying this, like, there could be someone else up
That's
for
true.
Summit, and
Go for it.
it's not me anymore in July.
Fair enough.
Who knows?
Well, we wouldn't want that.
I would like it, but how does that work? I don't even, never mind. None of this
Don't worry
matters.
about it right now.
None of this matters.
City council does it.
Oh, okay.
I do always recommend that if you want to renew your position, reach out to council and tell them that. Make sure that your application is thorough and you actually talk about why you want to do it.
Okay.
But it is totally fine to reach out to them and
Okay.
tell them you want to.
Okey doke. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Viena, we have a motions to adjourn.
Any second?
Thoman seconds.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.